So, hey YouTube. Did I just say hey YouTube? I'm not even sure if I'm going to upload this. So, hey. I've already done a reading. It's already on the table and I didn't record it, but I just wanted to share it because it's really important. It's the Celtic Cross, and the center of the reading is the Tree of Swords, the Broken Heart. Then we got the crossing energy with the Tree of Pentacles. The foundation is the Nine of Cups. We have the Eight of Wands in the recent past. And the World card. So something is ending, which is pretty good if you have the Broken Heart, the Tree of Swords in the center of your reading. So the crown of the reading is the Five of Swords. Again, we got a lot of development. I mean, I already clarified with the little cards here. Eight of Wands in the recent past with the Chariot. So a lot was going on in the past for you, if you're resonating with this reading. And the center is the Broken Heart, the Tree of Swords, right? Clarified by the Knight of Swords. Very fast, impulsive energy. Okay, maybe you've been too impulsive, I don't know. Something like that. The good news is that the crown of your reading is the Five of Swords. So there was a dirty fight, right? Your heart got broken. Your heart is aching. That's the center of the reading, so it's still aching. By the way, bottom of the deck is the Four of Swords, clarified by the Nine of Swords. So you are worried. You are hurting, actually. And you just have to let it sink in. You just have to process it instead of sitting awake at night and use your mind, your intellect to worry and to imagine horrible stuff, right? That's not a good idea. No, you're meditating. This person is not dead. He's not sick. He's pretty much meditating and he's letting something sink in. He's processing something. And underneath there's the Page of Wands followed by the Two of Wands. So something is changing here. Something is fundamentally changing, which is a good thing. So there was a dirty fight. You definitively got hurt. Your heart is aching. It's hurting. And this aching heart might have something to do with your intellect, with Swords energy, and with impulsivity. So maybe your sword that you were carrying here was a little too sharp, I don't know. But you came out victorious, so you made your point. You might have been right, by the way. But being right and being at peace are two very different things. You might be very, very right, but that doesn't mean that everybody is seeing that you're right, or willing to accept or able to accept that you're right. So you're right. So let's just assume you're right. You made an argument, you made a fight, you stated your point, you went into a dirty fight. You didn't intend it to be a dirty fight, but it became a dirty fight. And you're kind of on an intellectual level, Swords energy, that's the intellect, you kind of coming out of this victorious, right? Your energy, by the way, is the Seven of Swords. Seven of Swords, kind of the sneaky bastard of the tarot deck. So usually this can mean betrayal, but it can also mean, you know, that not somebody is doing this to you, but you kind of stealing yourself away. You're ending the conflict. You could fight this army in the background and you would lose, of course, right? So you don't. do that, right? So there's again, swords energy, and then followed by the Six of Swords, clarified by the Hierophant, the wise man, the teacher, the spiritual teacher, right? And the spiritual teacher, the alchemist, the sage, right? Understands that you can be very, very right. But if you're surrounded by an army of people who don't see that, you can spend your life fighting and engaging in arguments about whatever you think is so very, very important and is a hard matter. You know, it's very important to you on an intellectual level. So you can fight forever against this army, but you're not going to win against this army. So you ending the fight. You ending the fight, and there is something you can take care of. You planted some seeds. Take care of these seeds. There's a talent here. Okay? Pentacles energy is so very down to earth, very practical. You're ending the fight. Much was going on in the past. Chariot and the Eight of Wands. You got your heart broken. You were a little impulsive. It was all about the mind, the intellect. You isolated yourself. There's the Hanged Man and the Tower too. But there's the World card. So you're ending this cycle, which is a good news. And you call it a win intellectually, whatever argument that you were fighting for, right? You were making a point, and a good one. But even if you have the best point in the world and you're totally right, that doesn't mean that you're happy, right? So you might get your heart broken if you keep fighting, and that's what you're ending. You're ending the fight. You're ending the argument. That's the World card. Wrapping it up. Dirty fight. You're ending it. That's the one storyline here. You get something going, and that is a very wise decision here. So you have to, the reason, I'm pulling some quotes here too. The reason for evil in the world is that people are not able to tell their story. Carl Jung. The reason for evil in this world is that people are not able to tell their story. Maybe you were telling your story, but not everybody was ready to hear it yet. So when people are not ready to hear a story or to hear a certain truth, right? They are going to fight this truth or the messenger. And I think this is where your broken heart with the Three of Swords is coming from. You were technically speaking right. There's the Five of Swords. But being right, and you know, you have to choose. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? So sometimes it's just time to end the fight, to stop arguing with people that are not capable of understanding you. So you find a different way to tell your story. The reason for evil in this world is that people are not able to tell their story, right? So you find a different way to tell your story. Maybe through tarot cards. Who knows? So you find a different way to tell your story. You're ending the direct approach. And then here in the foundation, in the crossing energy, the World card is clarified by the Tower. So you were isolating yourself, but this is ending. The Tower is bursting wide open. There's a crown on top of that tower that is, you know, the lightning is striking the tower and the crown is thrown away or falling apart. there's a little ego business going on if you are playing the hero, and you're right, and you're, culpa mea culpa, and suffering for your righteousness and so on. Sounds awful, but this is ending. So you have every right and reason to be happy. And you had your time in the tower, you had your time of isolation, you had your time as the hanged man, you were fighting the fight, honorable, making your point, being probably pretty damn right with it, right? But again, you can't fight this entire army, you're just one guy. So take your 5 swords and run with it, right? And be done with it. There's something, 7 of Pentacles energy, you need to take care of, because you planted some seeds, and they're good seeds, and they're going to, let's not forget how it ends with Justice and the Ace of Pentacles, right? So something will come out of it. There's a big potential here. There are 2 aspects. You got a lot of talents here. It's the foundation. Bring these talents. Don't isolate yourself. 3 of Pentacles, crossing energy to your 3 of Swords in the center here. So instead of fighting the fight with your argument, meet people. Go towards people. I'm always putting a few clarifying quotes. One of these quotes is, where your fear is, there's your task. Could your fear be actually engaging with people? So it's nicer to just be right and have a good argument, or write a book and stuff like that, and be super right about it. But to actually work with people in a very practical matter, bring your talents, make peace with that second cup, whatever that means to you. There are people who are different from ourselves, right? The world is full of them. And love yourself enough to stand over it, to rise above it, right? You don't need to convince anybody, especially not the people who are unconvincible, right? So I feel like you have been trying that. You have been trying to convince people that are just not ready or willing to be convinced. You are fighting this entire army, and you can spend a lifetime fighting this army, and you're not going to win. If you fight all the ignorant people in this world with arguments, no matter how right and how good your arguments, it's not worth it. So either be right or go for happiness. And you're going for happiness. You're taking all of your wonderful talents here. There's humble divine pride. Taking that, working together with other people. Stop trying to convince people who are unconvincible. That's a very wise move. And there are 2 different ways of telling a story. The reason for evil in this world is that people are not able to tell their story. Carl Jung. Tell your story, but tell it differently. The direct approach, Swords energy alone, is kind of failed. You kind of came out of it victorious, but the 5 of Swords is a very, very dirty fight, and the 5 of Swords is clarified by the 9 of Wands, and the 9 of Wands is the wounded warrior. So you got hurt in this, and let's not forget the 3 of Swords in the center of it all. So, and impulsivity, clarifying the 3 of Swords, right? So instead of doing this, find a different way to tell your story. Find a different way to bring your wisdom to the table, to some sort of cooperation with the Three of Pentacles. That's you, humble divine pride. You and your talents, basically. You're not wearing a crown, you're not sitting on a throne, but you're well dressed, and there's abundance here. There's a talent here, right? Bring that talent to the table. Cooperation with other people. That's the key. Making peace. Two of Cups with the opposite, right? That's fire and water, that's female and male, that's, the duality. Obviously, as I said before, I feel like you try to convince people that are just not ready to get it. So you're trying a different approach. Very wise move. There are different ways to tell a story. There are different ways to communicate truth. You can do it just by the intellect, very sharp intellect here, very swords energy everywhere, right? 3 of Swords, 5 of Swords, 7 of Swords, 6 of Swords, very sharp. It wasn't very successful because you got hurt, you got your heart broken here in the center. Wounded warrior energy, all this is ending. Be an example, live your ideals, ideas and ideals. Make it practical. And always, there's the broken heart in the end, in the center. What if you started loving yourself the way you wanted them to love you? So if you're holding on, trying to convince people, that also means that you have a need for them to understand. And if they don't understand, that's where the hurt is coming from, right? But if you love yourself enough, what if you started loving yourself the way you wanted them to love you? Then you don't need to convince them anymore, right? And then you can concentrate on the more practical approach, doing your thing, humble pride, your talents, right? And then bringing them in some form of cooperation with the Three of Pentacles. There's the Chariot here, so clarified by the Four of Pentacles. So you got some talents here, and concentrate on them. That's the Seven of Pentacles here. You got your little seedlings planted here. Concentrate on them. Practical energy. And then there is justice, right? And then there is the Ace of Pentacles, clarifying the Justice card. So it ends well. It ends well. And there's the Chariot, so it ends well soon. Just don't worry too much. I said a lot about Swords energy. 7 of Swords, 3 of Swords, 5 of Swords, the Knight of Swords, the 9 of Swords, and the 4 of Swords. Use your thinking, your intellect. Again, I say it again. Do not try to convince people who are just not ready or capable of understanding you. And that has a lot to do with self-respect and self-love, and just radical acceptance that you can't change other people. And if you lead by example, instead of by trying to convince people, just be yourself and implement the core message, right? What is important to you. Express that to your actions. If words are not understood, then express it to your action. That's the wise Hierophant here. the reason for evil is that in the world is that people are not able to tell their story. Well, sometimes you can't. So you have to embody it and find a different way of doing it. Maybe through tarot cards. Here we are. And it ends well, Justice card, Ace of Pentacles, a lot of potential here. I feel like this potential is unfolding over time. You already planted your seeds, you laid the foundations, you kind of cultivated the talents for it. So there's a very practical approach that you can do. You should absolutely do that. And it will bear fruits. It will unfold. There's justice in this. It ends well. There's one James Baldwin quote that I still got for you. And I'm just throwing this in here because, yeah, and another one by Virginia Woolf here. You cannot find peace by avoiding life. You cannot find peace by avoiding life. And you cannot find peace, and this is what I'm telling you again and again, by convincing people who are just not smart enough to be convinced by anything. Even if your argument is just perfect and totally sane and makes sense in all respect or regard. If they're just people who don't get it. So stop trying to convince people who are not capable of getting it, and accepting that, radical acceptance, and focusing all your energy no longer in this useless, senseless fight, but focusing all your energy on your talents. Other people, where your fear is, there is your task. Could that fear be other people? Actually engaging with them, right? And if you're not in the right place, if you're at a place where there are no right people for you, then change the place, right? Because you're worth it. And here comes the James Baldwin quote. It took me many years of vomiting up all the filth I'd been taught about myself and half believed before I was able to walk on the earth as though I had a right to be here. It took me many years of vomiting up all the filth I'd been taught about myself and half believed before I was able to walk on this earth as though I had a right to be here. And you have a right to be here. And you might be right in so many ways, but you don't have a right to other people seeing that. And if you're surrounded by people who don't see your worth and don't see your argument and don't get what you're saying, then change your environment and go someplace else where you find people who are ready to either understand you, but again, it's not so much about the intellectual expression, but more about living and embodying your message through your actions and just being that. The reason for evil in this world is that people are not able to tell their story. You can tell a story in different ways. Embody it, be it, live it, and tell it in a not so sharply intellectual way. That's the advice. That's all I got. I pulled another card. It's the Blue Angel Oracle deck. Number 31. The Ancient of Days. The Eternal Flame. You are the creative expression of the life force that flows through you. Thus you are full of endless possibility. Listen to the infinite wisdom of your soul, for it will guide you to creation of love and light. Feel the flame aglow in your heart. This flame is your intuitive wisdom. Intuitive wisdom, right? Let it burn through all illusions and obstacles, so your path may be clear and bright. Observe your breath. It will lead you to the golden temple deep within you. Enter the majestic glory that is authentically you, self-love, right? Feel yourself reborn with each new breath as you connect with the timeless love and potential you hold. Go forth and live your potential. All is possible for you now. Stop fighting windmills. That's the message here. Namo Buddhaya. Ciao.